Welcome on in to Sports Memo Today. I'm your host, Dan Alexander, and I got two great guests coming on here getting you some actionable info for this weekend, for the NFL season, and of course, a little MLB action as well, as they're returning from the All-Star break tomorrow. But today, we got Nick Parsons and Dan Kaiser joining me right off the top. Let's bring in my man, Nicky P, and let's start it right off with some actionable info people can get down on for Friday night. If you don't know, now you know. CFL action has been great for the clients of my man Nick Parsons on an 8-3 CFL run. It's the Montreal Alouettes taking on the Grey Cup defending champion Toronto Argonauts. How are we going to be betting this one? Because the Argos are riding with that nice 3-0 record.
Yeah. Just before getting into my pick here, Dan, I just wanted to talk quickly about sort of my handicapping approach. I'm not a big sort of quote unquote player guy. Players don't usually factor into my decision, into my equation when I'm making my decision handicapping games. If a player is out, his absence is reflected in the line. We're in 2023 here. The bookmakers, they're sharper than they've ever been at any other time in history. And so I'm not that great at individual player assessment. I've struggled at fantasy sports. It's a really difficult thing. And obviously it's very player driven. I've always been much better at looking at teams as a whole and then giving an assessment. I'm a situational handicapper. I've always felt that being flexible with your approach when it comes to handicapping is the best. And so, I look at many different factors throughout the regular season, like revenge. I'm also, these types of things a lot more closely than trying to handicap the players themselves. I'm looking at line movement. I'm looking at where the public money is, because I'm also definitely a contrarian at heart. When most people are going one way, I'm invariably going the other. And so this pick on Montreal, it definitely falls into my wheelhouse here as being a great situational play, in my opinion. The Toronto Argonauts, they are the defending Grey Cup champs, as you mentioned. They're 3-0 to open the season. That's both straight up and against the spread. But they're coming out of a bye week. Last week's bye, I think it just came at the worst time here for Toronto. Chemistry and timing, it's a very real thing in sports, obviously. But I think that this offense, which just beat BC 45-24 at home 2 weeks ago, it's going to come in a bit flat here to begin with. The Alouettes, they're 2-2 straight up and 2-2 against the spread. They started the season 2-0, but they've since dropped two in a row, including last week at BC by a score of 35-19. So, in my opinion, Montreal is definitely the more motivated team here. And it also plays with a sense of revenge here, Dan. This is the first meeting of the year between the clubs, but last year, Toronto took 3 of 4 games, and that includes a 34-27 win in the East Division final. So, big-time revenge factors here going on for the Alouettes today. And one last thing to point out, Montreal has, in fact, won 6 of the last 7 in this series here at home. And so, I just think everything points to at least the comfortable cover here for Montreal on Friday night.
Maybe even a little sprinkle on the money line, taking down the undefeated record of the Argos. But let's take the 5 and maybe run with that. All right, let's swing over from CFL to a league that probably has just a few more eyes on it, and that's the National Football League. And you wanted to take a look here at the AFC East and talk about the Patriots. Their win total sitting at 7.5. Mac Jones, hopefully, having a healthy season coming into this year. So how are we betting that? 7.5. I don't know. That sounds about right. You think they maybe could get over by the hook, or are you swooping in on the under?
Yeah, I got to break this one down. Looking at a few different things, there's still a few factors up in the air here, but the over is plus 100, the under is minus 120, and so that means obviously that the odds makers slightly favor New England to go under the 7.5 wins here. But the Pats, they have won 8 or more games in 4 of their last 5 seasons. Over the previous 3 years, they went 7-9 in 2020, 10-7 in 2021, 8-9 in 2022. And of course, the most regular season wins they ever had was back in 2007. They had the 16. They went on to the Super Bowl, lost to the Giants, and that broke the perfect record there. But after finishing with 8 wins last year, now they're predicted to have even less this season, and so why is that? and so that's what I'm hopefully here to tell you. But for the main reason last year, the offense, it did struggle last year. But, the Patriots, they still have Bill Belichick, and they have a new and quite a good offensive coordinator, I think. So if they can land, Dan, one or two players on offense, I think Mac Jones has a good chance of taking a step forward here and getting the scoring average up for the Patriots. Simple positive regression, in addition to hopefully some better players and some more depth, works in Jones' favor here for a bounce back season. Because if Jones can turn the season around, New England was really good on the defensive side of the ball. That's been the case the last couple of seasons. It was actually first in passing EPA last season. And Jones's offensive line looks solid this year. The big knock against Jones is that he doesn't create anything for himself. And so that means that he's always going to be better in person than he will be in fantasy football, etc. But among quarterbacks with 400 passes over their first two seasons, Jones is second in completion percentage. And so I think in his third year here, underneath offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien, he could have a really good season here. And so the rumors going around is that DeAndre Hopkins is likely to sign. And so if that happens, you can expect the three wide receiver set to be Devontae Parker, DeAndre Hopkins, and Juju Smith-Schuster. The run game, that was a weak point last year, Dan. But Ramondre Stevenson, he is a big positive regression candidate as well. And so I think there's every reason to believe that Jones can improve this year. And I think the defense can hold up. And I think some of the other teams in this division have a bigger chance of regression this season, honestly. I think some of these teams are overhyped in this division. So I'm going to predict the over 7.5 wins for the Patriots.
Over 7.5 wins. I know that's a music to all of our Boston fans that are watching out there. The bounce back incoming here for the New England Patriots, according to our man Nick Parsons, who is officially on fire, folks. He's on a 34-17 all picks run in the CFL, where we were just talking about. We mentioned 8-3, and also in July, it's been a nice start to July from our man Nick Parsons with those 5-star 5% plays. He's up 30 units on a 6-0 5% run. It's just the the nice good luck that you get from being here on Sports Memo Today. Check him out, sm.buzz/NP. You can see all of his streaks there. You can see all of his plays always night after as well. Transparency is key with what we do with Sports Memo, so you can see all the plays from all the handicappers, how they did on the homepage. Check that out on sportsmemo.com. And even with all that great info, we're not done yet. I get to bring on a fellow Dan who we were worried maybe I was going to be the bad luck charm for my fellow Dan here with Dan Kaiser, but no worries at all, brother. We've still kept on humming, and the 5% plays in June were just beautiful. So I'm hoping we're continuing here into July, my guy. Let's start off with a little MLB talk. And you wanted to break down this Astros game that'll be going tomorrow. What are you eyeing?
Yeah, it's the Astros taking on the Angels, and expected to be Shohei Ohtani. Houston comes in here. The one thing I like about this game, Houston comes in as a big dog in this one, like plus 135. They got JP France going on the mound for them. France has been decent this year, 4-3, 3.26 ERA, 1.21 WHIP, and opposing batters are hitting 238 against them. Ohtani's 7-4 this season, 3.32 ERA, 1.10 WHIP, and opposing batters are hitting just 189 against them. I guess I'm looking at this game more at the pitchers versus their opponents matchup here. France faced the Angels once this season, and he was really good in that outing. He went 7 innings, he giving up just 1 run on 3 hits. Ohtani's faced the Houston team twice this season. He lost both of those. He went 7 innings his first time, giving up 6 hits and 3 earned runs. But the second outing, he only lasted 6 innings, allowing 6 hits and 4 runs. Ohtani struggled on the mound against the Astros, and he's got another problem. Without Trout in the lineup, he's going to struggle to carry this team offensively on his own. You look at this Houston team; they've been winning without Alvarez and Altuve out. but what can you say? It's summer, and everybody knows if you're a White Sox fan, you know what happens in the summer. That's when Abreu starts hitting, and since June, he's just been hitting the cover off the ball. As I said, France was unhittable the last time he faced the Angels, and without Trout, I don't really see how it gets any harder for him. He's got the luxury now of pitching around Ohtani if he so chooses. The Astros are 5-2 so far this season in the matchup with the Angels. That it's the second half of the season. The Astros are doing Astros things when they get hot when it matters. And at plus 135, I feel like I got the better team in this one, and in this matchup, maybe even the better pitcher. So I'm going to take the Astros and the nice money.
I like it. Yeah. And still the Angels, the question is, how long does Shohei even stick around there? We'll see, with the deadline and everything, but exactly. It was in Seattle. Those cheers were pretty loud, man. I'll tell you what, when they were saying, come to Seattle, those cheers were getting pretty loud. So that even looms over the team a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. They could have got the cadence of the cheer and the clap a little more on.
Yeah, a little.
But yeah. But it was nice. It was nice. Yeah. And I got to thank you for not jinxing me the last time I was here. So hey.
I do what I can. I do what I can.
Actually.
Now, yeah, I'll have to knock on wood here. Don't worry. I'm thumping over here on the desk. We're not done yet, though. Not only did Nick Parsons, he wanted to look towards an over. You have an under to talk about a team that I feel like the opinion is really split on the Browns. Will they be nice with having Deshaun Watson finally under center, for an entire season? Kevin Stefanski, he won Coach of the Year. Is that luster starting to come off? So I've heard people make cases for both sides of this 9.5. I think it's lined a little too rich for me. What do you think with this Browns win total?
Yeah, I agree with you. This whole season, the Browns season, and whether or not I think where this total hits is going to depend on how much you believe in the return of Deshaun Watson. I mean, he had 2 years off of playing, basically 2 years off of playing football, and only maybe a year I can't remember if it was a year or 2 years of only supervised massages. So when he did get back into the NFL, he played 6 games. They only won 3-3. He wasn't great. You can chalk that up to rust if you want, but 2 years of rust is, a lot to shake off. 2 years of not playing organized football. They finished last season 7-10. So I guess the expectation is, can Watson give you 3 more wins this season? Yeah, look at this Browns team. They lacked a lot. They lacked talent in the receiving room, and that stood out as the season progressed, especially in November, December, when the weather, gets cold in Cleveland. They did bring in Elijah Moore, and they drafted Cedric Tillman to help out this receivers room. They're good players, but I mean, neither one really overwhelms me. And Tillman looked good, in college, and then they had a bum ankle his last season, so I'm not sure exactly where he's at coming back here. Look at this offense. They're 18th in points per game, 6th in rush yards per game, which is, that's always been Cleveland's forte, even going back, 20, 30 years back to the Bernie Kosar years. They could always run the ball. But the passing game was only 22nd in the league. I guess you would expect that to get better, or you hope it would get better this year. Defense was just average. They did a lot in the offseason in picking up players and drafting players, but I look at the list of players they signed and players they drafted, and there's no wow factor. There's nobody that stands out they could make a difference. I look at the schedule. They play in the AFC North, which is always tough. They play the AFC East. They have a game with the Chargers. They have a game with the 49ers. They have a couple games on the schedule that they can and probably will need to win if this game is to go over. But I don't think Watson will return to form he had before the suspension. Again, 2 years is 2 years. I think they could hit 9 wins. I think they could possibly hit 9 wins. But you need 10 to win this bet, and I just don't see any way they can get to 10. So I got the under 9.5 wins for the Browns.
I like it. Good breakdown. And you're looking at an improved Ravens team, a Steelers team who continues to, hopefully find their quarterback of the future and pick it. So I'm with you, man. I think a solid play there. We're looking towards the under on the Browns. And Dan Kaiser, he mentioned how I didn't jinx him. He just went 5-0 on big ticket plays in June. And in July, 12-9, maybe a little tighter, but he is up over 2 units. And if you're looking at what he's done over the last 30 days, all sports 46-25. That's best for second best here at sportsmemo.com. Just about a 65% run in the short term of the last 30 days from my man Dan Kaiser. Check him out, sm.buzz/DK. MLB is back and football is right around the corner. And the end is right around the corner for us here on Sports Memo Today. Big thanks to my guests, Nick Parsons and Dan Kaiser. Check all the experts out on sportsmemo.com. And hopefully this weekend, you're going to get a little extra money in your pocket with the experts. So thanks for tuning in. I've been your host, Dan Alexander, and we'll see you next time here on Sports Memo Today.